getting some of this stuff set up and we wait a minute or two. As we discussed, we're going to be talking through node stories. So anyone who's managed a node maybe has some good things to share, some challenges you've had to overcome, maybe shortcomings you're going through now. Please feel free to raise your hand. Would love to have 3 to 5 folks up here that either want to add value or just ask some questions. Um, Once we get this set up, we'll let Nate kind of kick off the topic, but feel free to raise your hands. Are you good to go, man?
Yo, yeah. How's it going, everyone? Cool. Yeah, let's you know, the we were thinking of doing a spaces for, a while, maybe a little bit more regularly because it's kind of fun to reach out to the community and talk a little bit. And, part of my job is answering questions mainly about, what should I do with channels, liquidity, blah blah blah. And I've got my own strategies, but like I think everyone is kind of that sort of dived into building nodes over the last few months or years have maybe discovered their own uh, strategies or whatever. So I understand, you might not want to share your deepest, darkest secrets, but like maybe some stories of how you got into it or things that you wish you knew when you first started, stuff like that. If anyone wants to raise their hand and come on, we could just kick it off now, or I could just ramble on. Either way.
Yeah, Nate, why don't you kind of dive into a few things? And then, as guys, raise your hand as you feel like if there's questions or you want to come share something too. We'd love this to be discussional. And just to make it clear, has nothing to do with you have to run a voltage node. This is everyone running your own node. We are super advocates for people running their own node at home and having that sovereignty. So let's focus on any type of node running that you're doing in that experience. But Nate, man, you can kick us off.
Cool. Yeah. So running a Lightning node means probably different things to different people. When Lightning first came out, you had to kind of install it manually. You had to know some Linux and pull from GitHub and install and play with the command line. And that was a couple years ago. And I think that over the past couple years to today, things just keep getting more and more smooth as far as folks that always sort of in the back of their head, Bitcoiners that are just kind of like, man, I really do want to run a node, but this just looks too difficult right now. And I think that bar that everyone has, I think that the innovation that's coming through of developers and everything is really sort of bringing the accessibility bar to meet, to sort of like start meeting everyone's sort of levels, hopefully. Hopefully until the point where everyone that wants to run one will be able to run one. And many people who started Node, at least when I first started, it was more about education than anything else. We heard the rumblings of, oh, you can make a fee, make income on fees and stuff. But I think a lot of people that get into it um, don't really have a strategy for that off the get-go, right? It's not like you learn about like strategies and then you make a node. You make a node first and then you learn how to use it. And throughout the years, we've had really good communities and discussions, and I've talked to more people than I can count and hearing and helping and them helping me. And I think it's a lot of fun and education, educational. So I just kind of want to hear what brought people into it. I was always a Bitcoiner, and I always wanted to run a node to begin with. So why not run a Lightning node also? And then I really fell down the rabbit hole there. And yeah, and then here we are, voltage. So it's funny how one thing leads to another. Did we bring someone up?
Yeah,
Hi, can
Bashir,
I?
what's up, man?
Hi, hey, I'm all right. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Um, I've been running a node for years, and lately, with like the community I'm surrounded with in Bitcoin here, a question seems to be popping up that, for example, we're finding that nodes have been having higher and higher requirements in terms of bandwidth and memory and processing power. And we find that, despite Moore's law, uh, the cost of the hardware, especially nowadays with the supply chain management issues, has been getting relatively more and more expensive. So I'm wondering, how do the leaders in this field tackle these sort of issues? And thank you.
Wow, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'll just give sort of my opinion on that, and I could definitely feel that pain as a Raspberry Pi addict. You know, it sucks having to wait more than a month now for my Raspberry Pis to come in. Um, and yeah, I hope that that this technology becomes cheaper, right? Moore's law. Um, but you know, the state of the world, who knows, right? As far as the Lightning Network growing in requirements to run a node, that is so I'm not a developer, but I know that a lot of developers see that the growth of the network and it's gossip between all the nodes are trying to like talk to all the other nodes whenever a channel state is updated and everything. There's a breaking point to that, and I know a lot of developers are working on database compaction, and we have neutrino nodes that don't need to see the whole graph for specific purposes. So I think that there's a good chance that, I mean, this is just me predicting now, but I think that maybe in the future, your node won't need to see every other node on the network. It'll only need to see what it's immediately interacting with, and that'll be enough. But I'm not sure. That's a great question, though. From a hardware point, and services like Voltage, where you could spool up a node on our hardware, for example, might be a thing of the future. We've got the Lightning development kit now being utilized by some very beginner, not beginner, like people are just starting now to use the Lightning development kit to make their own implementations, focusing on niches that are might not be as immediately catered to. For example, uh, Sensei is being developed now, which has this really cool concept of parent and child nodes. So that'll be really cool to see how that plays out. But I do know that development in all aspects of Lightning is growing, though, and I think that can only be a net positive. If anyone else wants to answer that question in the audience, or chime in, feel free to raise your hand. I'll bring you right up.
Thanks for that.
Bashir, I read in your profile it says Bitcoin Secretary of Beirut, and I looked at that's in Lebanon. Are you playing a role, I guess, in your local economy when it comes to Bitcoin, or what does that mean?
Indeed. Well, we're a community that's been running since 2016, sort of anticipating, the financial crisis that has happened to us in 2019-20. We find our bank accounts shut down with all our dollars locked up, and no one has any source of income anymore, and our local currency is devalued to dust. And we're trying to get Bitcoin as the next level for our people and our nation, and make it the second El Salvador, if not the third, if Russia's going to be the second, as like rumor has it.
Yeah. What have been the challenges from a node perspective, I guess, with you being maybe a thought leader, someone who's more educated in that space? Like, what are the typical challenges that maybe you have helping people get their node up and running and effective for them?
So right now, with another leader of the community in Beirut, we're trying to sort of get the whole, at least the community, us in Lebanon, hooked up together, all together with just channels, just all of us together, and eventually, hooking up to all the merchants, and possibly eventually, making it like, government payment, terms of taxes or whatever it is we need to pay to the government. I mean, that's the final, solution we see. And the kind of I mean, we're still in fetal mode here, I mean, so the challenges are still in front of us, at least the major ones we're seeing, but still we need to choose, like, what is the best solution we need to go for, especially in terms of, um, as I had mentioned, um, resource requirements. That's uh, that's mostly it, I suppose. I mean, ease of use. There's a lot of software right now that's making things like Nodes and Lightning easy to use with like lots of nice dashboards and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, we need to make this as resource conservative as possible.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I think that most of the spec developers and even some of the main app developers are aware of this trajectory, and I don't think that they think it's acceptable, because I don't think the community thinks it's acceptable either to just have the network graph grow uncontrollably till you need like tons of bandwidth to be able to do anything. I have faith. Let's just say I have faith that it won't get to that. But I think that's awesome, and that's really challenging too, because, like you said, we're still in the beginning stages of this. So those people that are like running nodes and stuff now, you're a lot. I think a lot of people are doing it not because they need it right now, but because they're preparing for the future. In a lot of ways, it's sort of like getting a little bit of the beginning of a decentralized financial system off the ground, not because we necessarily need it right now, but because when we do need it, we'll have it. And I think that's important too. And I think as uh, more, I don't want to, more people that aren't Bitcoiners right now start realizing how easy it is. I think over time that'll have sort of a cascading effect, sort of like a domino effect. That's the hope anyway. And so far, like the it's been kind of slow, but I think a lot of work has been uh, being done on the usability front for our Bitcoiners to like have it easier to get their nodes going, and then it'll sort of spread out from there. It seems like. But that's awesome, man. Thank you for doing that where you're at.
Great, thank you, Bashir. Well, anyone else, please feel free to raise your hand, come up and share maybe some of your experience. Timothy, I shot you an invite. I don't know if you're not able to jump up, but you've got some really awesome insights. I would love for you to share if you have the ability. But Nate, maybe share a little bit more. I know you've been covering like running a routing node and maybe some initial steps until some other folks maybe raise their hand or ask a question. Can you talk maybe a little bit about some of the initial steps of setting up your own node, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, like it used to be, you had two options, right? You either do it yourself, like your own hardware, or I mean, I guess it's newer now, but like use something like Voltage. And to my knowledge, Voltage is the only one that has this really easy sort of node in the cloud, sort of in a few minutes and you're good to go sort of thing. But there's sort of three though, right? Like there's the do it yourself on your own hardware where you're installing everything manually, and then it's like the Umbrals and the MyNodes and the Start9 embassies and stuff where you're sort of like buying the operating system to have the apps that sort of integrate, and you still have the hardware and stuff, but you're using sort of like other people's development of how to use the software that you want to use. So, um, you know, Ah, so if you're building these nodes just to do lightning and stuff, the first thing that you're going to want to do after turning it on is try to send some Bitcoin to the on-chain part of your wallet. Now, I'm talking about LND specifically. If anyone wants to talk about C Lightning or async or anything, that's perfectly cool. I have a little bit of experience with those, but not a lot. But in general, though, you need those payment channels up front, and for a node, that you want to receive from also that can be sort of part of the hardest part of getting going at the beginning, which is that inbound liquidity that you would want from another node that is well connected to the wider network. And so the sort of like chicken or egg story is you're a brand new node, you need inbound liquidity from a quality node, but that quality node doesn't get any, there's no real incentive for them to open up a channel with you and lock up capital with you if their goal is to do routing. So that's where these new liquidity marketplaces are coming in. L&D, Lightning Labs has one called Lightning Pool. C Lightning has also an ads board that is similar but a little bit different, which allows people that are running these routing nodes that have really good uptime, really good connectivity to the rest of the network, that are still sitting on capital to say, you know what, I will open up a channel with that brand new node, but they don't, but they charge for it, right? So that is a way that a lot of people are getting inbound liquidity on their first nodes now. But I mean, I could talk about inbound liquidity for days, but I think that's sort of like the newest option. One of the original ways was to send funds from your channel, like out of it, but like to yourself, right? So you can like open up a 10 million sat channel. I know it's a lot. I'm just using that as an example to like a big node on the network that you think would be high quality. And then you pay like your mobile wallet, like a Blue wallet or a Phoenix wallet or something through your own node into your phone, and then that sort of moves funds in that channel from from your side to the remote side. So now you can receive some. That's one of the most weirdest part about running a Lightning node. One of the first things to like wrap your head around is that whole liquidity thing. But again, that's getting easier. Hopefully, I think nodes in the future might. I don't know. Hopefully, it'll be automated in the future.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we should have that roundabout way of funding yourself automated. Just wanted to interject that in.
You're breaking up a little bit there. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to interject to say that I would say roundabout way of funding yourself should be programmed to be automated somehow. That's all.
Yeah, I think that I think that that is hopefully going to be addressed with competing implementations in the future. I think that the Lightning Development Kit, which is allowing developers to make their own Lightning implementations outside of LND and outside of C Lightning to focus on what they want to focus on, could could have like a business focused implementation, so where you spool up a node and you don't have to deal with channels. It auto runs, it auto connects to these marketplaces, and it just simply tells you you can receive up to this amount. You don't even see the channels. That's the sort of infrastructure I want to see. I want to be able to, if I have a bakery, I want to be able to just kind of have a box on my counter, a little computer on it that just says you can receive up to x amount today. I don't want to see channels. I don't want to see any of that. And I think that is going to be sort of the direction things are going soon, I hope. But, development takes a while, so it could be years. But I want to see the channel stuff sort of reserved for the folks running nodes that really want to make the network better, and you get that through fees and stuff. But those that just want to use a node just to receive payments, or use as a business way to point of sale system or something, they shouldn't have to deal with channels, and it should still be self-sovereign. OpenNode is great, but OpenNode has KYC, and OpenNode has a percentage on every transaction. That's okay for now, but I think that we need to move away from that in the future. So we got to combine the best of both worlds.
Great. Timothy, what's up, man?
Hey guys, I just had a question for Nate, actually. Um,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so I was drawn to Voltage because I want to make Lightning products without having to obviously run my own, spending time on DevOps. As someone who wants to do that, how would you suggest like I set up my channels to get the best coverage for wallets? I think I have an open channel to Bit Refill, but it's kind of spotty how the payments go through. Mon wallet works well, but Phoenix and I think Satoshi's living room doesn't, like, the payments kind of bounce.
Gotcha. So you're trying to make payments from your node to somewhere else, right?
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
receive and send out mainly to people with wallets.
Gotcha. One of so obviously the goal is to be able to send payments to as much of the network as possible, and I'd say a really good tool of reaching that as quick as possible is the Lightning Labs terminal page, terminal.lightning.engineering. Um, a lot of the top 100 nodes have what's called a high centrality, which means that, for example, if a node said 60% centrality, that means that they're connected to the wider network better than 60% of the nodes. And if you connect to a few of those, the thing is though, there's diminishing returns, obviously, but like I would recommend at least 5, but I think 10 is probably the sweet spot for channels. There's also a resource called LN Router, and LN Router you can put in your node's pub key on there, and it'll pull the public data from that, and it'll say, okay, you have channels with these people or with these other nodes. If you open a channel with this node, you'll reach this many amount more of peers on the network. So you can extend the overall reach of your node to the wider network, which will increase the probability of your payments succeeding. Another one is Moneni, Moneni. I think it's .com. Same basic thing. You put in your pub key, and it sort of tells you if you open up a channel with so and so, you will have access to this amount of the network. I think that's a good way to get like into the network on that, as far as like preventing failed payments going forward.
That was a great answer. Thanks, Nate.
Absolutely.
As they used to say on Clubhouse, Nate, you're dropping gems. Thank you, sir. Well, yeah, I've seen we've probably had another 10 people jump in here. We're basically talking through today Lightning node stories. Anyone who's run a node, you want to share, add some value, or ask questions. One of the objective of these that we want to help achieve is, more education, more, whoops, just more awareness on how we can grow and scale. PlebNet's played an incredible role, and at Voltage, we want to play a role as well on all this. But feel free to hop up, raise your hand, ask a question. And Danny, hey, welcome to the stage. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Good, good.
Good, yeah.
Hey, man.
I kind of wanted to share some of my experience and then ask some questions to see how people are solving some of the issues that I'm running into. So I guess like I'm trying to run a routing node personally, and like to bootstrap my liquidity, I'm in the PlebNet Telegram, and I'll use this thing Lightning Network.plus, which you can coordinate these like triangle swaps, which I'm sure some people here are familiar with. But you basically like 3 people each open channels like A to B, B to C, C to A, and then you all do a rebalance. So then you get like 2 balanced channels. So that's nice. But the other thing is then I also use a tool like called gridflare.xyz, which is another centrality thing. So it tells you what nodes you should connect to get more centrality. But I kind of want a way to like be able to like contact nodes that like would improve my centrality and then do a swap with them. But I'm running into issues because it's like not easy to just arbitrarily contact a node on the network unless you like send them a key send payment. So I don't know, that was a lot there, but curious if anyone has like thoughts or suggestions.
Yeah, I mean The communication thing is tough. I wish more people, I mean, I'm not sure what percent of people that are running decent routing nodes like keep an eye on their messages, but like you could be receiving messages and not even know it. And that's one of the reasons I like Thunderhub, because Thunderhub has that chat function on it, because you can attach messages and people can message you on Thunderhub. Uh, but like, yeah, I wish there was a better way to communicate that. I agree, Danny, for sure. Um, and Lightning Network Plus is really, really good if you Lightning Network Plus is kind of like nodes that sort of join together to sort of make like a little neighborhood and then connect to the wider network, right? That's kind of how I've always thought of it. So like you don't need to have 30 channels open to the wider network. You can just have 10 channels with people that also have 10 channels to like the other network, to the rest of the network, and still have access to the wider network. You still might be using more hops, but you still have access to the wider network that way, which I think is really cool for people that don't have or aren't or don't want to put a lot of capital onto their Lightning nodes.
Cool. And then kind of the other question I have is how to keep channels balanced. Um, like sometimes I'll try to rebalance, but a lot of times the rebalance is pretty expensive or like unreliable. It doesn't really work. Um, so I've started setting my fee rates on like an algorithm. So like I use this thing, Charge. I think it's called Charge LND or something.
Yeah.
And it lets, yeah, you can like set a strategy so that your fees update based on so like if you have a ton of outbound liquidity, you can set the fee rate low to incentivize payments. Or if you have it's mostly on the inbound side, you want to not send that way, you set the fee rate high, which works okay,
Yep.
but it's also like I kind of want a way to like sometimes there's like a mismatch. Like if I'm receiving from a certain channel, I don't want it to go out to a different one, if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone knows. Like it's almost like I
Yeah.
want to set a fee based on the incoming as well, but you can't do that, you know. So
Yeah. Like the only power you have, right, is over like what you get when a channel goes from your outbound side to your inbound side. Um, so channels that tend to that if you can go to the forwards tab on Thunderhub and you can see which channels tend to go more outbound, which tend to go more inbound, and which tend to sort of flow both ways, which is all the ultimate goal. Like if you have a node that has a few channels that are constantly going back and forth, that's like you're doing great. Um, but more often than not, you've got channels that go like one way or the other, and it's hard because so like if I open up a channel and it drains really fast, I'm gonna look for a rebalance and then I'm gonna increase the fee on that channel. Hopefully, the fee that I'm gonna put on that channel is equal to or more than what I paid to rebalance back into it, so I don't lose money, which is really really important. But if I can't do that, then I'll probably go to somewhere like Amboss or I used to say 1ML, but 1ML doesn't really do anything anymore. But Amboss, and just kind of look at my peer and see what other nodes they're connected to, and then see if you never know this for certain, but like if you open up a channel to one of their peers, maybe that will help bridge some of that liquidity. Like if you have I don't know, like find like use your own criteria of like what node what peers you would rather have, whether it's channel size or whatever, and find something that they have on their peer list and maybe open up a channel with them. But like that's not foolproof either, but it's very, you got to experiment with it.
I've also wondered if you could like sort of guess who the next hop is based on what the amount you're forwarding is. Like if say the amount you're forwarding is like 100,000 and 212, and then you took a fee of like 12 or something, and you almost like guess that the full amount is this round number, and so maybe you look at their peers and see who's charging 200 for a route or something. But I don't know. I
That's an
don't know
interesting
how
idea.
plausible that is. I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone's doing that.
that's an interesting idea. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I'm not sure on that one. I was thinking more like you can see what nodes out there you're forwarding payments to the most. Um, you could do that with Balance of Satoshis, which is a command line tool for the audience.
Fantastic. Bounce.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic tool, by the way. Like the Telegram plugin and everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's really cool. It just like auto downloads your channel back up for you and everything. It's awesome. Um, but that and I find that actually kind of useful. I used to use that to open up new channels with. Like I would run it like in the last 60 days, what are the nodes that I forwarded to the most? And you as someone running a Lightning node, you only see what the previous sort of payment came from, and you see where the next payment came from, but you have no idea if that's where it started or that's where it's ended. So with that said, though, you can kind of see what you're forwarding to the most, and maybe that would be a good peer to open with. But I've experimented with that, and it's not always the case. But you're kind of always running with incomplete information. You kind of just get the most information you can, and then just kind of like give it a shot. Um, but it's important for everyone to know that you do not have to get this in depth with it. Like we're at the point now where if we're talking sports, like we're talking like nitty gritty. but but yeah, you could go as like down the rabbit hole as you want to. You don't have to. You could just open up channels and just make payments, buy gift cards, have fun. That's and learn a lot just from doing that too. I just don't want to scare anyone off.
Yeah, for sure.
But these are good questions. We should let me know what you're thinking sometime when we could talk.
All right, guys. Well, real quick, I said I was gonna give away some free liquidity on Twitter, so I gotta do that. But I sent you a message. I don't know if I could throw you a coupon for some Sats, but would
Oh,
you mind
cool.
if I sent that over to you?
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just on our Flow dashboard. If you have any questions, you can DM Nate or just drop it on our website. I don't want to take too much time here filtering questions on that, but I got the coupon code in your inbox, man. So we appreciate you sharing.
Thank you so
Um,
much. I'll go right to there.
yeah. But let's keep pressing forward. If there's another topic or someone out there listening, I'd love someone to raise their hand and ask a question, maybe who'd like to get a tip or two. So feel free to raise your hand. The one thing I'll share, at least from my experience, just from like a more of a newbie perspective, I remember the very first time I opened a channel, and this is like what Nate was talking about earlier. I was on Discord with a buddy. We opened like 100,000 sat channel together, and I went to make a payment, and it completely failed, and it was just because he had not opened enough channels connecting us to the broader network, and neither had I, and it failed, and I was just like, "What's going on?" And then I learned how having thanks for inviting him up, Nate, Jamie. I learned that having deep connecting to better nodes and opening more channels myself, it helped resolve that problem. So that's definitely one of the biggest initial problems I think people run into. But Jamie, what's up, man? Welcome.
Hey guys, just I have a newbie question. I've had a node for a little while now, but I only have two channels open. I don't have a ton of liquidity, and I just always get nervous about like committing some of my sats over to open up a channel. Luckily I have two reliable partners with the channels, and they've taught me a lot. But one of the things that I kind of had a question on was like I wanted to um, I I actually wanted to buy something off of Fold, and I was kind of debating as to should I open up a channel with them and then like buy it through my channel, or like like what's the benefit of that? I'm not really looking to route it, but just wanted the experience. And in the end I decided not to. I went ahead and bought a few hundred dollars worth of stuff and sats, and then immediately after I did it, I was like regretting, oh, I should have opened up a channel. And so just like for a newbie, like what's the use case of opening up, like say with Bit Refill or Fold or some of these like high traffic if you are going to purchase from them every once in a while?
I yeah, that's an awesome question. It's a really good question. If you're running a routing node, and I'm just caveating this real quick, and you are opening up a channel to someone that's like a known merchant, your channel is more likely to be sucked dry, like routed through, and not come back. And the reason why is because the merchant is obviously receiving more payments than they are sending out. Now, Bitrefill has a service where you can actually just buy liquidity from them, and they'll open up a channel with you. It's called Thor. So they sometimes, it can sometimes go both ways with them. But Fold, to my knowledge, is mostly not sending Lightning out. Now, with that said, though, if I don't really mind that much, and I know I'm going to be using Fold a lot, it would I don't see any issue with opening up like a channel that you deem appropriate with them, and then over the span of the year you're just spending money, you're spending sats out of it to buy gift cards and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that, and the good news is you're pretty much guaranteed it the payment the payment to succeed, so that's good. So yeah, I think if I am like buying stuff regularly from somewhere, I would probably open up a direct channel with them. If I was just buying it from someone once or twice or something, and um, I probably wouldn't unless I knew that they would benefit my node's routing capacity in some way. But that's just me. Danny or anyone, if you want to chime in on that, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of just got to do the math, right? Like if you think you're gonna pay more in fees over the course of time to route through other people to pay Fold, then it would make sense to just open a channel.
Yeah, the only caveat there is like open up a channel that's going to like be open still for a while, right? Like if you want to make like buy $100 gift card, don't open like $100 channel, But if you're going to buy $100 gift card every month, you can open up a $1,500 channel, and then you have it for the rest of the year, kind of thing.
Makes sense. Thanks, guys.
Also, going back to a point that was mentioned earlier, where you can kind of use these bigger companies to balance your channels, kind of like I personally do that with River, where I have like a River account and a channel with River, and so then if I need like inbound, I can just deposit over Lightning to my River account, and now all of a sudden I have inbound liquidity, and I just have some Bitcoin in my custodial River account. So you could probably do that with Fold too.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's important to note on that sort of thing, though, that you are basically telling this centralized service your node, your Lightning node. So if you are trying to keep it anonymous, don't do that. But if you don't care about that, that is an awesome method. You can do little submarine swaps with River. You can definitely do that.
Jamie, appreciate you asking the question, man. I shot you a DM with one of those coupons to claim 1,000,000 sats of inbound, so feel free to snag that.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Nate, I'm going to kick one your way. So once someone has some channels open, they're routing, like what are some of the common challenges? I know like from you and I talking, like and for the context for everyone, I'm very hard-headed. I'm a cold storage person. I'm not big on putting my sats out yet, like becoming a routing node. So that's why I'm like asking some of these questions. But Nate, what are some of the big challenges once people maybe do have 20, 30 quality channels, and it would be good to discuss that an average like routing node will want to overcome? That would be good to touch on.
So I think that when as a routing node, so this is again just my opinion, and I want other people to like tell me like what they would do. But like I would say a functioning routing node has in minimum 20 channels, and the total liquidity of the whole node is relatively balanced. I would say, 50, it doesn't have to be 50-50, but 70-30 either way is probably okay. Um, and then once you sort of have that, it's really just sort of like hang out and see what happens, see what channels are moving, see what channels are draining. And then over time, you can sort of close channels, open up new channels, see what channels interact with each other through experimentation, like we were talking with Danny earlier. And eventually, you probably don't even really have to watch your node. You can check it out on ThunderHub maybe once or twice a month, if that. I barely watch my node anymore, so it's and it's still doing top 100 on terminal. So I think that the initial steps, take some time, but eventually it's just kind of autopilot. It's as autopilot as you want it to be after that.
I also want to note that it's a good thing to try to keep your channels somewhat balanced, because when people are trying to route through you, they don't know the liquidity balance of your channel. Like they don't know if you have outbound or inbound within that channel, and so if you fail to route a payment that they try, they like deduct you from their algorithm, and then they won't try you next time. Like they'll wait a little bit longer before they try you again. So it's always good to try to have balanced channels.
That's a good point. Yeah, like if you have like a channel that's almost 100% like inbound on their side and they try to make a payment through you, the chance of that succeeding is going to be higher if you have more outbound on the rest of your channels, right? If you've got 18 heavy inbound channels and 2 heavy outbound channels, the chance of any of those people that own those inbound channels like passing a payment through you is substantially less. Absolutely.
All right, I just saw we had Harambe hop on stage. What's going on?
Hey, hello. I was wondering what implementation of the Lightning Protocol do you guys use at Voltage?
Yeah, so it's just L&D right now. We recently hired some more engineers and stuff, and we're looking into Sea Lightning, but there's no sort of ETA or anything on that right now.
Cool. Yeah, I've been looking at Sea Lightning myself. Seems cool.
Yeah, for like anyone that's looking into trying Sea Lightning and doing ads and stuff, Raspy Blitz is really, really good. It has that. Or Raspberry Blitz. I've been saying Raspy my whole life. Raspberry Blitz.
I think Get Citadel has it too. It's like the Umbrel copy or fork.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I would not be surprised for sure.
I have a question about node privacy.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, because node IDs are static, which obviously is kind of dangerous. What are the most current ways to kind of hide your node ID or obfuscate it?
Yeah, so like again, this is sort of like a range. There's no such thing as, the world is crazy, the internet's crazy. The best thing, I mean, the best thing you could do, and it's not like a full stop measure, right? Is use Tor, use a VPN for like network stuff. Um, on the other hand, if you want to like use a VPN and then run a voltage node, we don't do KYC or anything, so you can totally do that. And that way, you don't have any hardware, laying around. So it really depends on your own use case. But yeah, you're right though. Like, if you are running a node with like 10 Bitcoins on it or something, and then you advertise that is your node, like this is my pub key, like pay me, or you send somebody an invoice, which can easily be decoded and people can see, the pub key and everything, then you are telling the world that you've got 10 Bitcoins on this node and this is your node ID. So I think that the privacy minded people, their general hiccup is connecting their node pub key or alias with their identity, whether it's a whether it's a NIM or whether it's your real identity. So that's the challenge for a lot of people, because it's fun to be like, hey, open up a channel with me and post it on Twitter. Well, now everyone knows.
Hmm. Hmm. I was just wondering if it was possible to, let's say, generate virtual nodes and then share the node ID of the virtual nodes, but you'll be the, let's say, the penultimate hop.
Oh, yeah. Uh, hmm. So the way that the invoices work now is it shows what the final destination is. So whoever you give an invoice to, it'll show the final destination for. Key send is the same way. So, um, so yeah, it's tough right now. There's been talk years about rendezvous routing, which is like an invoice that doesn't show where the final destination is, which I think would be great. That's like my number one thing that I want is an invoice that doesn't show where the final destination is. I think that would be great. But until then, yeah, it's you know what it is. So that's why I think a routing node, if you're privacy focused and you want to run a big routing node, just don't make payments with it, right? Like if you want to make payments with a node, start a secondary node with fewer channels and just make payments with that. Go ahead, Danny.
I was gonna say LDK just merged a change that has this thing like called a phantom node, where if you're, because it's when you're receiving that you give up your node pub key, but like Nate mentioned, things like rendezvous routing and stuff will help with that, or get around that. But LDK just merged a cool thing called phantom nodes, where you can, like, I don't know, you don't reveal your node, but you give these route hints, and one of the route hints or two of the route hints are your node. Just kind of an interesting thing. Also, there's a fantastic article called "Current State of Lightning Privacy" uh, by Anthony Ronning that he wrote like a little over less than a year ago, which I'd suggest. It's like a really nice deep dive on all the current privacy, status of Lightning Network.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally forgot about that article. That is definitely a good one. And I'm glad you brought up LDK because I'm so bullish on LDK because all these developers that want these big implementations to add features and stuff, or they've even put out, or they've even like coded it themselves and put it out to get peer reviewed and stuff, or reviewed. It's like taking forever, but they could just make their own implementation now. So I'm expecting good things out of that. I'm really interested in Sensei, like I brought up earlier. So that's gonna be really cool.
We're using LDK at Cash App, so I can speak to that a little bit if people have questions on like how it works and how it's doing.
I would love to hear anything about LDK, man. So you've got the floor. Let's hear about it.
Doesn't Bolt 12 allow you to accept payments without exposing your public key, your node key?
Sorry, I missed the first half of that.
Doesn't Bolt 12 allow you to accept payments without exposing your public key?
Yeah, I believe Rusty's proposal fixes a lot of those issues inherent with Bolt 11. I'm not too much of an expert on that though, but I believe that because he was the author of Bolt 11 also, and he recognizes those limitations. So I think so. I'm not 100% though. Huddle Slim, I'm gonna get to you in just a second, but I wanted, Danny, if you want to talk a couple minutes about LDK and like how it's going, I'd really like to hear about it.
Or maybe we should check with Huddle Slim in case it has to do with that question right there.
All right, Huddle Slim, go for it, buddy. What's up?
Hey, no, it doesn't have anything to do with that. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that I'm in the process of building a routing node with C Lightning implementation on Raspi Blitz. Thanks for saying that. Raspi Blitz, rather, because I say Raspi Blitz as well. So, if anybody wants to, I don't know. I just followed your voltage on your channel on Discord. So, is it anywhere that I could like post my progress and maybe help people out, or just even the other guy said he's about to do it too. We can all kind of share our experience together. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to just say that. All right. Thanks.
No, that's cool. I hope you enjoy the Raspberry Blitz. I've only had a little bit of experience with it, but I saw that they added sort of a new looking interface and stuff, so it looks really good. Um, and what was your question again about where to find a community to talk about it, or I
Yeah,
missed that?
just somewhere where I could post my progress, because most of the channels I join are strictly talking about L&D. So I was just curious if it's anywhere
Uh,
some resources where I can share mine and maybe get some
tell
pointers from someone else.
Tell you what, I'm good friends with Lisa over at Blockstream. I'm gonna ask her, and I will DM you when she gets back, because she's a C Lightning and a Lightning spec dev, so she should know a couple probably. I really don't know off the top of my head. Like I would say the Raspberry Blitz. I assume that there's some community for Raspberry Blitz, but for C Lightning specifically, I am not entirely sure where they all hang out. So I'll need to get back to you on that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Danny, you're welcome to share a little bit on the update with LDK, and then Dr. Crypto No, we can let you chat and share what you had next after that.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, basically we at Cash App decided to go with LDK like 6 months ago or whatever, and it's been super cool. It's definitely much earlier in terms of like it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that something like LND has. So there's a lot of little things that have been challenging, just like seeing what your channel balances are, or like tools for rebalancing, stuff like that. But the thing that we love is it works so nicely with our current architecture. Um, because at like a big company like Cash App, we have all these existing developer tools on like how to spin up a cloud service, and like what databases we can use, and the logging and the alerts and all that stuff. And with LDK, we can just like include it as a library, and it basically fits right in. And then there's a lot more upfront development work. Like we had to write stuff on like how we store the channel backups, like in the database, and how we feed it blocks when new blocks come in, and how we do stuff like can stay connected to the peers. So that was like a lot of upfront work, but now it seems like it's gonna probably scale really nicely as we like try to expand and service more and more volume. So we can keep you updated with that as it's going. But the LDK team is great, and like Matt Corallo and Jeff and Valentine and Arik, they're just really crushing it. So yeah, it's been cool.
That sounds awesome. It's like molding a glove around a hand rather than trying to like jam a hand into a glove kind of thing. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's kind of like build your own glove, almost.
I'm just thinking about an analogy, but that sounds good. And yeah, I've heard the same thing from a lot of sort of like smaller like financial businesses and stuff trying to learn about like lightning and trying to figure out LND, which is extremely complex and extremely hard to sort of get in there on a development level and understand.
Well, Dr. No, Dr. Crypto No, how's it going, sir?
Well, the first thing I would say is I really regret that the word crypto is in my Twitter handle, but uh, good luck finding Dr. No. Like, I'm sure that Twitter username was taken 15 years ago. Anyway, I actively manage fees on all my channels, but should I be managing max HTLC? And does it matter if most nodes in my immediate neighborhood subgraph are not also managing max HTLC or probably the network more generally? Like, is that likely to change or reduce routing failures in any way?
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, the bigger a payment is, the more likely it is to fail. But if it fails, you're not really getting hurt or anything. And if your fees are set, to absorb a percentage of that, then I don't know. I've never really thought of a max HTLC as an issue. I've always thought of min HTLC as an issue for like spam attacks that are theoretical at this point. I haven't really heard of one happening outside of testing right now, but like my min HTLC is like 100. Like I don't want like micropayments going through my node.
Sure. I bring this up because max HTLC is set at channel open. Suppose I open a 10 million sat channel, all the liquidity is on my side. The max HTLC will be set at like 9.99 million. But then as the liquidity flows across, if max HTLC is not updated, then what I'm gossiping to the network is going to be incredibly misleading. No, we don't want to give away all your balances, but then I assume that routing failures are increased for nodes that have misleading max HTLC.
This is very interesting. I actually have not thought about this too hard, but I guess I always thought that was sort of updated behind the scenes, but it might not be. Interesting. But yeah, you're right. That could that could result in payments that take longer, and it could lead to your node not reducing in reputation, et cetera, et cetera. I haven't thought about that. I'd have to look into it.
And I imagine the network as a whole has increased routing failures because max HTLC is not actively managed. And so I guess that was sort of my meta question.
That's an awesome question. I'm actually right. I'm gonna write that down and research that. I'll be honest. I'm out of my loop on that one. I don't know if anyone else on stage can speak on that, but I'm definitely can't really contribute to that one, unfortunately.
I believe just Richard runs the person who runs Hello Jessica node does half the size of the channel as max HTLC for this reason. He's talked on this before.
I'll have to talk with him. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. That makes sense.
So
Awesome.
it looks like there's Charge LND, which is the tool that I use to like set my fees. Looks like there's might be a fork that allows you to dynamically set max HTLC. I was just looking at this PlebNet article, but I haven't looked too far into it. It's called Using Charge LND to Adjust HTLC Limits, that article.
Zero fee routing uses Charge LND to adjust max HTLC, and ZFR stated somewhere, I forget where I read it, that he or she purposefully sets it misleadingly low. So he understates it by at least 4x so that you can't determine true channel balances. But that's a really busy node. I know at least one is using Charge LND to actively manage max HTLC.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Very interesting. I don't know why that hasn't come across my radar yet, but thinking about it, yeah, that makes sense.
Voltage could be uniquely positioned to, I mean, obviously customer data is limited to what they're willing to share, but if there was some sort of platform plugin or add-on that managed that, then you would be in a unique position to collect data about whether that improves the health of the network and decreases failure rates.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if we even capture a lot of that data. A lot of it is encrypted and put away. So I don't know. We'd have to check with the engineering team on that. But I think it would be cool to have maybe an LND charge type service embedded within the voltage platform, though. So you can set an auto fee or an auto HTLC min or max.
Yeah, send me a DM. I'd love to talk to the engineers.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, guys. Well, I just invited Nick to the stage. We'll maybe chat for another 10 minutes. I know we're over a little bit, so everyone's sticking around. We appreciate it. But Nick, what's going on? What do you have to share and chat about?
How's it going, guys? I actually was going to chime in just to say what Dr. No just said about zero fee routing. He's been a super interesting case to study for someone who's just routing a ton of payments. And yeah, recently he was tweeting about the max HDLC stuff he does with the charge LND, which I think is really cool. But yeah, in general, I think he's probably one of my favorite Twitter follows right now, just because he's tweeting out all the transactions he's routing, what hardware he's using, issues with compacting his database and LND. He's a really cool follow. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I really like how he's taking that concept and really running with it and getting as much data as he can with it, because I think until that node came around, it was really more theory than anything. And, when Lightning first was really getting going, zero fees was like the scariest thing you could think of, because you didn't want to get like spam attacked and stuff. But I'm not exactly, I guess that's not really as big a concern as it used to be.
I'd say it's a real testament to LND, even though, he's torture testing it right now, and he's definitely finding maybe some limits and some places to improve. But just seeing that kind of throughput, if you imagine, if you're like I am, and I think that the Lightning Network is going to be huge someday, the traffic he's seeing might be peanuts, So he's definitely a cool person to talk to.
Awesome. Mr. Dr. No, go ahead and follow me. I cannot DM you until you follow me.
Well, sweet, guys. Well, unless there's any final words or anything we want to chat about, this was really productive and definitely valuable. Appreciate everyone showing up and chiming in, and hope everyone that listened got to learn a little bit and got some value for this. Our goal is to be doing this on Wednesdays. There'll be some times we won't be doing them just due to different stuff, but we're going to be aiming for Wednesdays, bringing some great topics, having some guests. But before we hop, any final words or any other quick topics maybe we want to chat? All right.
No, yeah, man, it was fun. Thank you guys for coming up. I really appreciate it and hanging out with us. We're gonna be trying to do this every Wednesday or so. We'll let you know. We'll try to have like a different sort of discussion topic, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to keep doing these. I think it's really productive to sort of share ideas and everything.
All right, everyone. Until